So I've had it apart, I've tested it, a TLDR. This thing's actually pretty good. And underrated alone is just having a clip-on voltmeter with a backlit screen. That's huge. This thing does actually put some sort of load on the battery. It is actually very accurate. I tested it with just a dead load, a transformer with no battery, and it said 0 amps, so it's not just using a reference table. I don't know how it works, but it's well made, and it does actually test cold cranking amps of a battery somehow, pretty accurately, like I said. It's able to test your alternator, and the starting test, I don't really know what it's looking for. Either the starter works or it doesn't, but yeah, that seems to function as well. So it does exactly what it advertises, and I don't know how it does it, but that's the TLDR. Stop watching the video now if that's all you want to hear. Otherwise, I will stitch in the rest of the testing after this.
Hey guys, this is going to be a little bit unorthodox for me because I don't start out in the garage. I'm going to test this in the garage, but I also want to see what's in it first. What this is, it's a digital battery load cranking and start tester. Right now I use a battery load tester that I've had for about 15 years. All it is a resistive heating element, a pair of cables like this, and a switch with a little analog dial, and that thing is served me really well because it'll tell me how healthy a battery is as far as cranking amps, whether or not I should just get rid of it. And I was actually approached by this company, Topdon, and they offered to send me one of these just to check it out. So that's what I'm doing here. Just to be transparent, I did not pay for this, but I was excited to try it since the one I've got, the switch is getting a little crappy and it's, you know, kind of old school. So my main questions are how the hell this thing can dump the heat from testing a battery. Obviously, when you put a huge load on a battery, it's going to make heat. So the old school thing just uses it's like a heating element from a stove or something inside. So I'll be curious to see if there's a heat sink in there. But let's get it out of the packaging, check it out, and then we'll test it. So here she is out of the package. Build quality on the unit's actually pretty nice. We'll see what kind of plastic it is when we get inside. Standard charts. I'm guessing this will work just fine for testing alternators and for cranking to see if that system's good. However, I don't think it's going to be good for battery load testing because if you see in there, those are pretty thin wires. And then you come over to these nice big wires and you look at them and they say 22 gauge. They are rated for ADC, so that's at least something. It's good quality cable, it's just really small. Good solid copper alligator clips though. Honestly, those look like magnets? I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, I'm still gonna open this up because I'm less worried now that this needs to be able to dump coolant because there's no way these can pull enough, not coolant, current into heat. Because there's no way these can transmit enough current to make that kind of heat. So here on the inside, we actually have a USB Mini B, which is not really an industry standard anymore. See a lot of diodes, a couple microcontrollers, which are name brand. I gotta give them credit. I don't actually see any writing on that big one though. I think that thing's been washed. And then you can see our connections. It is 4 wires coming in, so that is 22 gauge. It's pretty thin. I don't really see any mechanism for dumping current into heat. I'm gonna pull the board out and look at the other side. Looks like we have backlighting power and a ribbon cable for the multiplexed dot matrix LCD. Yep, there's nothing on this side of the board at all. So I'm gonna throw that back in there just so it doesn't get damaged. But it's definitely got a microprocessor, so it should be able to test, like I said, the alternator and the starter stuff, but this won't be able to test the output of a battery. And in the instructions, it's got selections for the types of battery, and it's saying that it can test it, so we will give it a go, but it's just, in my mind, there's no way this thing can test the CCA, cold cranking amps of a battery, reliably. So I will say the enclosure is excellent quality, went back together, no problem at all. Doesn't smell weird. I'm guessing it's got some fiberglass in it, probably just nylon, I don't really know. I don't have the little razor blade like AVE does, so I'm not gonna check it. But yeah, that's it for this little section. I'll pick this back up when I'm out in the garage next time, and we can actually give this a go on one of the cars that's been sitting for a long time. Just see what she does. So I've got this thing hooked up to the GL, which is the only car down here that hasn't been hooked up to a battery maintainer. I'm just going to page through. Select test out of vehicle. Select charge before charge. No, this is an AGM. This is an 875. Okay. So how did it get that? It's testing resistance. 365 amps. Shoot, I'm gonna have to get my conventional tester and test it with that. So I can do a little bit with mathematics, but interesting. Oh man. Before charge. I'm gonna see if I can get to the starter test on this thing. Well, I ran it again. It's nothing if not consistent, so I'm still trying to find the menu for the starter test and for the alternator test to see if it's at least useful for that, because I don't think this is correct. Okay, after the battery test, I just clicked OK and it gave me that, so I'm gonna start the engine and see what it says. Okay, well, increase rev. I can't. I'm not in it. Increase rev detected. Okay. No. Normal. Whatever the hell this all means. Well, I mean, it does work for a voltage meter. Alright, last battery I'm going to test. This is the battery out of the FJ, that AGM. It's just been trickle charged back to full. It's a brand new AGM with a 775 rating. We'll see what this says. Good battery. Oh. This thing actually is pretty accurate, I think. But what it's doing, I think, is taking the battery voltage when you hook it up, and it's just referencing an internal table, which honestly is probably pretty accurate for resting voltage. But if you had just been charging like crazy, or you had it hooked up to a system with multiple batteries, or it was like overly discharged, this won't give you an accurate result. Because if I drove the FJ for an hour with this battery and took it out and tested it, I bet you would say it's a bad battery. I don't know. It hasn't given me an answer that seems incorrect yet, although the 365 amps in the GL seemed a little low. But it wouldn't surprise me if this battery was putting out 1,000 cranking amps right now, just because it is up to temperature, and it's rated at 775. I don't know. This thing's actually pretty cool. I'm going to keep testing with it before I have a verdict on it, but it's at very least a good alternator tester, and I actually like when you just plug it in straight away. It gives you a voltmeter at the bottom, so it's actually a pretty nice DC voltmeter. It's just something to think about, but yeah, so far I guess so good. So I'm back here with the Topdon Art of Battery 101, and I wanted to try one more test, and that is just see if this actually is using a lookup table. So right now I have it hooked up to a 1.5 amp 12 volt power supply, 12.38 volts. Let's do out of vehicle, before charge. And let's just say it's a 775. It actually does do something.
That's impressive. I don't know how that works. But it's not just using a lookup table. Huh. Okay, so now I have my cheapy Harbor Freight multimeter set to amps, and we're doing 3/100ths of an amp. So I'm gonna go through to the test again. .56 amps is what it drew. I guess I'll try that on a battery and see what it draws in a real battery. So now, 12.86, 3/100ths of an amp, and I need 3 hands for this, so just give me a second. Very strange. Same battery, same tester, with no multimeter in the middle. And it registers correctly, so I don't know how this does it, or how much load it puts on there. It can't be much, but it does work.